Hello. So if you've been watching, that was me setting up a palette. This, I know it's kind of outdated and it's not really popular anymore, but this was one of those cheap art supply challenges, but not really, because I still used Canson mixed media paper. I used brushes I already had, so I didn't go out and buy anything. I used brushes I have but don't really prefer because they're synthetic. I do like the flat brush though, and I used the first tube watercolors I got, which were $5 at Five Below. I also have tea with me, so if you hear me drinking, that's why. I used a normal yellow pencil. I never use those because I fucking hate them. And my eraser was technically free because my aunt gave it to me from one of her, it was Sketchbox or something. So, The watercolors are Royal Langnickel. They're fine. They're chalky. The only blue in the set is a Prussian blue, so it's but there's 2 reds and 2 yellows and the purple and 2 greens and 2 browns, and it's why only have 1 blue then? But they were my first tube set, and it really got me out of my shitty pan watercolors into tubes, and when I started to run out of colors and realize, hey, these kind of suck, I was able to move on and kind of graduate. So they were a really good stepping stone. And for $5, yeah. Even for a long time, I still used the purple from it because it was actually a pretty good purple, and I didn't have any purple tubes, and you can't actually mix a purple like that. But that's all I kind of wanted to say about it. The drawing's not that good because I wasn't really working with a plan for it. So the drawing kind of sucks, and I've done better before, and I could do better, but I'm not going to re-record because I don't have that much space on my phone. Even though I already deleted the video, I still don't have that much space on my phone. So the rest of this video I'm going to talk about, this is the second part of my AP art tips and so this is going to be how to overcome burnout. So some of the mistakes I did with AP art is I feel I started too early, too fast, and I really hit the ground running, and I didn't have a solid plan. And so when I would finish something, I didn't know what to do next. And you kind of had to wait for that inspiration. And that's not good, because when you're in a program when you're in a program or college or you're doing art for a job, you can't wait till inspiration strikes. You have to keep working and then make you have to keep making art. You can't stop making art. And like, it's a double-edged sword, I guess, because it's like, it keeps you making art so you don't fall out of practice, but also if you don't like what you're making, it's hard to finish something. And I have so much to say about this. Like, depression really plays into it for me, because I never like what I make. I'm very rarely proud, and it's not just inspiration, it's the willpower to actually do something. It's so hard to come across that. And the dissatisfaction with everything I make, it's really hard, especially being an AP art. And, you can have feelings like that without having, clinical depression. But for me, I feel like that's kind of the root of it. But the way I feel like you can kind of get out of this burnout is by having a solid concentration, having that solid, very well fleshed out plan, doing thumbnails prior to even starting the piece, and then having extras to do after. Obviously, getting critique from other people is also going to help, because then you can kind of know what you need to work on while you think of what your next piece is going to be. If you remember from my last video, I talked about having a story, having a narrative. Fuck, somebody's calling me. I don't know who it is. If you have that narrative, god damn it. Sorry, I'm not cutting that out. This is all going to be one take. What did I say? Oh yeah, if you have a narrative, it kind of gives you like a helping hand with avoiding this burnout, because then you can have that kind of early step into an idea if you have like a story that goes in a progression, because then you kind of know what the idea is going to be, but you don't know how you're going to execute it, instead of having to worry about coming up with an idea and the execution. Another tip to avoid burnout is don't just stop at 12 pieces. If you've made it to 12 pieces before the deadline, keep going, replace stuff. Put them all, go onto the submission website on AP and the College Board and put them all in, label them, size them, and then organize them. And then go to your teacher or your peers and ask them, what's the least strong pieces in here? What's the strongest? And take your ones that just are weaker and don't necessarily redo them. If you like the idea but not the execution, keep the same idea. But obviously from painting it then and painting something new now, hiccup, you're probably going to be a better artist, because it could be like a couple months or even a couple weeks. But it could be a couple months. And obviously you're going to be a better artist later in the year than you are in the beginning of the year. So if you remake something or make something to replace a piece that's weaker, you'll end up having more than 12 pieces, but then you're really fine-tuning what's strong and what's not. That's what I did. Like, one of my favorite pieces, like, it wasn't as strong as my other pieces, but it was still one of my favorites because I loved the gesture, I loved the idea, and I liked the way I executed the fabric. But it wasn't as strong because the face, I did it in oil paint, and that's the only oil painting in my concentration, because the other oil painting I got rid of because I started doing this stuff and it was really Renaissance-y and like draped fabric, but I felt like I was kind of making myself too egotistic with it, and I didn't want to portray that. So I kind of ditched that, and I did keep like draping white fabric and gold fabric, but not as, I kind of eliminated the oil paint. It's mostly gouache, watercolor, oil pastel, colored pencil. But, what was I saying? But, okay. So what I did is I talked to my teacher, right? And even though some of the ones that weren't as strong were some of my favorites, she was honest with me and said that they weren't as strong. And So what I did is I took the same idea, the same kind of concept, and I executed it differently. Instead of an oil painting, I took a standard sheet of like black paper. I was also doing a lot of work on black paper because gouache and colored pencils on it look really, really cool on black paper. So about half my concentration's on black paper. But I kept the same kind of. If I could show you the fabric, maybe I will in another video. And I'm not gonna edit that in now. The shadows, which are the black paper, kind of come up through and then the highlights form out. So there's a lot of contrast in the fabric. And it kind of floats away into the background, kind of like a Baroque painting. That was kind of the idea with it. And so I kept that, because that was my favorite part. But I changed it so it's like me holding a knife to my neck. And I kept the gold circle, because there was like a gold circle in the other one, but it was more like a ball of light, because I don't actually have gold oil paint. But instead I made it like a gold circle to the composition, and I made sure it wasn't all central shit. Like the circle's central, but the figure's not central. I have a couple things that are kind of a central composition, but I also try to keep them at least a little bit offset. My teacher really harps on central compositions, so it's like, anyways, those aren't really good tips. I feel like I'm not very concise. It's just me rambling, but, so tips to avoid burnout. Have a good plan. Thumbnails. Replace your work. Get critique so that you can get critique from others so that you can improve on one piece while still considering what you want to do for your next piece, so it doesn't look like you're just not doing anything in your class, you know? Yeah. So I guess now, I might just talk about what's been going on. So I take dual credit classes at like a local college, so I have high school in the morning, college in the afternoon, and then I either have dance class Monday, Tuesdays, or nothing because I'm trying to get a job. But my college spring break was 2 weeks ago. My high school spring break is this week. And my dance spring break is next week. So I don't really get spring break, which is kind of sucky. I guess that'll change next year, but I mean, also at least I'm getting free college. So, nah. Oh, yeah. Over the weekend, my mom and we took a trip down to, well, not really down, because it's up geographical. It's north geographically, then more north of where I live. So it's not really down. So we took a trip up to Detroit, because there's this, oh, look, there's my head. Ugh. My rat's nest. So we took a trip up to Detroit to go visit the school we visited in October, because they were the first ones that I applied to, because it was the easiest application, and it was literally $10. And the school I met at Portfolio Day, they are super nice, and we went, and they were the first ones to accept me. They accepted me 10 days after I applied, which was pretty cool. All the other colleges I applied to took like 2 months, so it's like, I mean, I guess I should have known, like, first acceptance, best acceptance, or like, I don't know, the first ones to accept. We toured the other half of the campus. I got to have this one-on-one talk with one of the illustration professors, because that's the major I got accepted into at that school, and I decided I'm gonna go there. It's the College for Creative Studies. It's right across the street from the Institute of Art Museum, and it's really nice. From what I can tell, like, especially my admissions counselor is so sweet. She, like, puts the little smiley faces in the text, because I said that they could text me to contact me as opposed to, like, emailing or calling. Like, they can email, but as opposed to calling me, I'd rather be texted. And, like, I got this little handwritten, like, holiday card, whereas the other colleges sent, like, just printed, and that one actually was, like, had handwriting on it, and I was like, wow! And, you know, like I said, the admissions process was so easy. And it seems like the people who they are there to help you really care. And it's also not too far from where I live, so I can come home every other weekend and see my cats. And it's Detroit to Cleveland, so 2 shitty cities. The buses aren't that expensive, really, because I can't drive. So we're coming up on the end of the video. You'll see it there. Okay, that's it. Goodbye.